Hi, I'm Bonnie Kempke. Welcome to my studio and welcome to Quilting on Thread. So this is the next episode of my little journey with the Color My World pattern. And our first episode, we just kind of went through gathering the things that you'll need. And one of the steps that I had alluded to was having to trace out the pattern pieces for your templates and trace them out on freezer paper. So I'm going to pull you over here so you can see how I go about going ahead and tracing these out using my light box. And so here we are. This is my light box, and I'm just going to take one of my pattern pieces and I'm going to lay that down, kind of center it as much as you want in your light screen, and then just a single piece of tape is all you need for this piece. That's just going to hold it in place. Then you bring your wax paper over, your freezer paper. Make sure that the shiny side goes towards your image that you're tracing, so that the matte side that you'll write on is facing you. And then it just helps to have this taped down so that it doesn't move on you. So I usually tape up at the top, at the bottom, and then on each of the sides. When I do that, I smooth everything to make sure it's as smooth as possible. And then I turn on my light. You can see that the lines of the template are thoroughly visible. Most light boxes have multiple light settings, so you can make that as bright as you need. I want it to be a little bright, but not so bright that I'm blinded. So it helps to have a straight edge, whether that's a clear ruler that you can see through, because you want to make sure that you can see any lines that you might be obscuring. A piece of cardboard, that's also useful. My favorite to use is the Add a Quarter Plus, which has a beveled edge so that it's very thin here. And so that winds up being very much like a piece of cardboard, but I can see through it. So this is my favorite tool. And I just line that up as much as I can on the line. Hold my ruler down, take my pencil or pen, draw. Now, you're going to find that as you're drawing these lines that you can't tell necessarily where you've drawn unless you use a colored pencil. You can't tell where you've drawn and where you haven't. So you'll find it necessary or helpful occasionally to just turn the light off so that you can see your drawing. So turn the light back on and move up to the next line. And I find that it's helpful if you go across the item that you're doing. So these are stitch lines. They indicate that by giving you dashed lines, so you can draw directly on their dashed lines, or just go ahead and, as I've done, just draw the lines that you would like. You don't need to draw the whole line for stitch lines. And so you do that across the whole pattern. Across the whole template, just line up as much as you can. Be very careful to stay right on those lines. Move the ruler there a little bit, but not enough to count. I mean, not enough to be a problem. So I'm going to go ahead and do this next line. Now, of course, these have indicators on them. I go ahead and write those indicators in as well, because this is going to tell me the same information that the pattern itself has, that the template itself has. So I'm going to go ahead and write them in. So you can see how I'm progressing through here, and I would do my entire pattern that way. Now, it's also important to note that not every line is straight. For instance, let me show you what I've done so far. So I've drawn all of this out, but I haven't done these top lines, and this is the reason why. If I go here, the top lines are not straight. So what I have to do then is very carefully trace those lines. And they kind of indicate to you that the line is not straight by doing a long dashed line. That's to let you know that that line may not be straight. And you can certainly go ahead and try to continue that line and make it continuous and straight. And this is the stitch line, so I'm just creating my own dash. But let me turn this off, and you'll see that it's not entirely straight, but it's not so curved. And if I brought the ruler back in here, you can see it's still, I've maintained that slight curvature. And that's important for these pieces, because if you remember, let me bring this over, there's a lot of things curving around, and you want to make sure that your curves are in those pieces so that you get the curved structure that's going to be around. On this piece, these two pieces go together. This is the top, which maintains a curve, and then this bottom. I'm going to come over here and show you, give me a little more light. I can show you that that's the one that's curved on this piece. So we'll just create those slight curves ever so carefully, drawing the line. And then this is the stitch line, so I'm going to just do as I will. And so you can see that still it's maintaining that curve, and that's important that you maintain the curve. Something that I think is important to note about Miss Wendy's pattern pieces is that the letters are indicating color that you're going to choose. But these numbers, many times people assume the numbers are the pattern pieces, but especially in Wendy's patterns, the one actually indicates that this is the first seam you will make. The 2 is the second seam you will make. The 3 is the third seam you will make. And the 4 is the fourth seam. So you'll sew piece L and D together to get your first seam. Then you'll sew the set LD to M to get your second seam. Then you'll sew all of these pieces together to get your third seam to E, and then you'll sew all of this together to F for your fourth seam. Then your fifth seam is this conglomeration with the G piece, and so on and so on. So I can definitely tell you, I have many hours of tracing these out ahead of me. So I'm going to go ahead and close this edition of my little journey and bid you adieu, and hope to see you on my next portion of this journey here on Quilting on a Thread. Bye-bye.